world is loud, chaotic. The world is stressful. The world is changing. Our Earth is being pushed to its limits at a time when we need to listen to its needs. Our Earth is heating, burning, and hurting. This noise can get louder and more intense. What if we could just make it all stop? This is Svalbard, a place like no other. A place of quiet, calm, and natural beauty. Far removed from the cityscapes, industry, and hectic traffic that we know as the culprits of our changing world. This collection of islands in Arctic Norway appears pure, untouched on the surface. But remote Svalbard has found itself to be the fastest warming place on Earth due to climate change. This is the perfect spot to study the effects human activity is having on our planet. My name is Jaclyn Whittal. I'm a meteorologist and a climate change journalist. I was invited to return to this special spot in 2023. Two brave women did something that no two women have done before. Their mission was to overwinter in an old trapper's cabin in the Arctic in the name of climate change. The two women call themselves Hearts in the Ice, an awe-inspiring mission to protect not only Svalbard, but the whole world. Here is their story.
We kind of wanted to disconnect from the world for a little while and do something. We had two main goals. One was to collect data for scientists studying climate change as citizen scientists. And the second thing was to use the hut as a base camp for connecting with kids and adults around the world on different topics, all related to climate change. It's hard to measure time up there because we have no point of reference to anything that anyone in our connected world would be familiar with, because we are untethered. We're remote. We're 140 kilometers from the closest town. Our neighbors are wildlife, and our backyard is ice and snow and light and mountains.
My short journey offered a glimpse into what life was like for two women who spent 19 months overwintering in a cabin in Svalbard, all in the name of climate change.
Svalbard has become the fastest warming place on Earth. So we often say that this is the epicenter for climate change. And the main reason why this place in particular is warming so quickly is because of sea ice. So if we were here in the winter times, you would see like the entire fjord around us would be white, would be covered by this ice that forms over the ocean. And a few decades ago, you would find sea ice here most of the year.
Dr. Heidi Silvestre, a glaciologist, was on board our ship, and I took every opportunity to discuss the impacts of climate change with her. But it was this story from Hilde Falun that stood out to me the most.
December 19, 2015, my husband Steinar and myself was home. We had been on a Christmas event the night before and went to bed quite late. And we were witnessing the biggest snowfall that I've ever seen up in Svalbard. And the next morning I got up quite early and I was still outside digging snow. And then I just heard him screaming my name. I just instantly understood that something really, really bad had happened.
An unusually warm winter and a very unstable snowpack triggered an avalanche.
17 of my neighbor houses was buried inside their homes, and I was very involved in the young family that were looking for their 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. The whole settlement was looking for the people that was buried inside their home, and we found the 2 girls, and tragically the youngest one died. I really wanted to do something different in my life, but I really wanted to make a change.
It was this event that became the beginning of a journey to Hearts in the Ice. Sunniva Sorby is no stranger to cold weather expeditions.
I was the last woman to be selected to be part of the team that would ski across Antarctica. We made it to the South Pole, so we made history. And that was in 1993.
She gives lectures on ships teaching people young and old about the incredible spots on Earth, like Antarctica, and why it's so important for us to protect them. She's a Norwegian Canadian and a proud member of the International Explorers Club. Hilde Falun, a member of the Explorers Club as well, has been surrounded by the outdoors her whole life, and the idea of overwintering in a remote cabin has always been intriguing to her.
I read a book when I was a young girl that my father gave me. And I read about this first female trapper called Volstad.
In 1932, Volstad was recruited for an expedition to Svalbard. She learned to hunt reindeer, polar bears, and overwinter in a cabin. Though there was one distinct difference about her, she was surrounded by men. The send-off mission on board the MS Nordstrand in 2019, the same vessel that I was on in 2023, this ship included many scientists. As you can well imagine, the preparation for such a trip took tons of planning, including food and gear to sustain themselves for the next 19 months.
I just want to officially welcome all of you, family, friends, partners, sponsors on board this amazing trip. I can't believe we're here, and if we forgot anything, too bad.
The ship crew, taking them from Longyearbyen to Bamsebu, would be the last people they would see in the flesh for many months. When our Zodiac boat reached the shore at Bamsebu, we were all speechless, to be honest. This small, forgotten cabin is where these two women stayed in complete darkness. How remarkable. I walked around the shore, exploring at every step. There's actually bones, beluga bones. It's kind of like a beluga graveyard that basically lines the beach. You can see here behind me, this is a pile of beluga bones. All the beluga's ancestors, and it's really just sort of end of the beach. It's quite extensive. In 2019, this remote location, an uninsulated hut named Bamsebu, the historic trapper's cabin on the shore of the Van Kulen Fjord, would be their home for the next 9 months.
We had 2 solar panels on the outside of the hut and a huge windmill to power our needs so that we could have connectivity and send emails every now and again.
The cabin itself was built in 1930 with 4 small windows and uninsulated. The cabin was used as a beluga whale hunting cabin for years.
No running water, no electricity, no Netflix. Just living there was very simple living. We chopped wood every day for our wood-burning stove. We found that wood on the beaches around the hut.
At any time, you could easily see a bear. So we have rifles with us at all times, and I could actually see somebody kind of getting their rifle, so just leaning it there. They were just kind of getting it ready just in case. And those logs that you see angled against the cabin, that's for polar bear protection. This disturbs the bear's space when they're trying to break in. And in fact, there hasn't been a successful break-in since the year 2000. That didn't mean the women didn't encounter a bear while there. In fact, there were over 100 bear encounters.
That's where we had this big polar bear standing here, right here, and open the door. And then we have this door sort of a little bit in between us. He was like here, and his butt was sticking up. That was a good aim.
He was a big bear. Oh my God.
Ja.
Så nær kan han være.
That was, he ran right past me.
Ja, han skvatt, ja. For du slo på lyset?
Ja.
Ja, nei, men han nok i nærheten. Det en liten bjørn.
Ja.
Nå går vi inn i mørketida med bjørn rundt veggene, Sunniva.
It's October 12th, and on Monday, and today's Saturday, on Monday it will be 1 month since we've been here. Really hard to actually believe it. 19 months felt like a really long time. I don't miss a thing. It's like I'm here.
Vi har alt vi trenger her.
Yeah. But I think one thing that is really good about you and I is that when we're somewhere, we're right there.
Ja.
This is all sample sheet for ice over here, and this is the insect book.
What started out as 7 months turned into 19 months in total. The global pandemic meant that not only could they not be picked up by another ship at Bompsaboo, but they also felt they were needed right where they were.
Whew, I just have to stick it through. We just canceled our trip for May 7th to 11th, the pickup trip, because of the coronavirus and all that crazy stuff that's going on.
They tried to start off each day with a sense of normalcy, working out, eating well, trusting in one another as their bond deepened as friends as the months went on.
Being just the two of us together for 14,000 hours, that is what I'm most proud of, how we managed to do this so well, coming out as friends even after.
I've spent a lot of time in cold places, but I've never had an experience where I was in one place for so long. Most of my expeditions have been, you're on the move. And so to be in one place for 19 months, that's not for the faint of heart. Oh my God, seriously?
Seriously.
Oh boy. Ready? Ready, go.
Blir man längre ut, må vi ikke da?
Nej, du kan... This is fine.
Og så helt ned.
Ja, helt ned. Very, very close and extremely dependent on one another. I mean, you know, for example, I could not walk down to the shoreline without saying, Hilde, I have to go to the bathroom, because she had to come with me. You're completely tethered to the other person. And what that develops in you is a deep respect and a need to collaborate and find that closeness.
In a fjord in Svalbard, literally hundreds of kilometers away from how long you've been. In the winter, this would be completely covered in ice and snow, and it'd be windy, and it'd be cold. It could be into the minus 30s and 40s. And here is where Hilde and Sunniva stayed for 19 months alone in total darkness through the polar night, and finally seeing the sun for the first time on March 9th. Can't imagine what that feeling must have been like. The storms. Hurricane-force winds blast the cabin night after night, almost ripping the door right off the hinges. A communication antenna which linked them to the outside world was ripped off the metal stand outdoors, and they secured it again through the strong winds and got it up to working condition. By the way, that was done in minus 40 Celsius temperatures.
When there was hurricane and really bad weather, maybe you remember it built up a big snow wall here. We had to go out every day to chop wood. We had all our woods out here, picking up snow and ice from this area. So water was actually a very limited resource for us.
From November to February, Svalbard is completely blanketed in darkness, even in the middle of the afternoon. This makes this location quite unique.
There's a special type of aurora up here that you can't see at southern latitudes, and that's called a cusp aurora. And it usually happens between 12 and 3 in the afternoon. There's no time for sleep because you want to soak it all up. And I couldn't have been luckier to have somebody so lit up like Hilde, because, you know, photographing the aurora in those conditions, you've got polar bears as your neighbors out there. And you've got a camera that batteries need to be kept warm, and it's minus 26 outside, but you could not be happier to be out there photographing the night sky.
The incredible Aurora Borealis that filled the Svalbard sky with waves of greens, blues, and reds was not just a spectacular view, but was also part of their citizen science mission. They were documenting the aurora for NASA. While the rest of the world was on pause during a global pandemic, the women kept busy with many citizen science duties. In fact, it set them apart from every other scientist on the globe who could not partake in travel at the time. Alison Cusick, San Diego PhD candidate and biological oceanographer, was closely linked to the women. Their job was to collect phytoplankton samples to see how and if there was activity in this part of the world, particularly during the polar night.
Phytoplankton is not something we interact with regularly, so it's two Greek words, phyto and plankton. Phyto means plant and plankton means drifter or wanderer. So they are in the ocean, single-celled organisms that use sunlight to make energy or photosynthesize. And because they're converting organic carbon, that's the base of the food web. All of life requires carbon. First of all, they were going in the polar night, which we really don't know a lot about how phytoplankton act in the night, because normally they are photosynthesizing using sunlight. And also the fact that they were going to be there for an extended period of time. Regular sampling, which is something that's incredibly difficult to do, especially in the polar regions. They were given an instrument that can detect the saltiness, the temperature of the water from the surface down to 100 meters. They were given a net, phytoplankton net. Some of the first things we're seeing, of course, are the different types of phytoplankton present. So in the wintertime, you have this sea ice growing when the ocean freezes over, and those phytoplankton are what are found in the bottom of the sea ice. The polar night is not kind of like a quiet time. There's activity going on. You have these two incredible women who have their own accomplishments, who also are so passionate about sharing the story of regular people getting involved in the solution.
Right now, there's absolutely no ice at the end of November, and last year there was almost a full fjord of ice. And here comes the drone in for its little landing.
I went up there and taught them how to fly it. I created some pre-programmed flight plans that they could just automatically have the drone fly.
Another important citizen science project that they took part in was monitoring the ice conditions, the thickness of the ice, ocean temperatures, and even wildlife with a drone.
The drone has a camera system that has two lenses. One is a regular color camera lens like you would have on your cell phone or any other camera. And the other lens essentially has a different type of sensor, a different type of filter that only allows infrared or what we call thermal energy to enter.
These types of thermal cameras are beneficial for seeing objects that are relatively cooler or warmer than their environment. For example, like a warm-blooded polar bear walking along the cold sea ice.
When it's too dark to see, the thermal camera could potentially pick up a polar bear at some distance and say, okay, maybe it's not a good idea to venture over there.
They partnered with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, a Canadian organization that connects explorers to classrooms virtually. These women reached over 100,000 students around the world.
Välsigna du ris över land, välsigna de eviga oran, hopp och utsträckt hand. Kom igen! Någon som är härifrån? Is this Bamsebuveien too?
The women told me they tried to celebrate the little things. They adjusted to life in the cabin.
We had a lot of fun. We played, and we really tried to do some fun things every single day. And the celebration every day was dinner, even though we didn't have much. Sometimes we did, but sometimes we didn't. And to celebrate that, regardless what we had of resources, was very important for us.
Life is good here at Bamsebu. Life is as good as we make it.
Absolutely.
Right? Probably one of the most powerful things we did was to record wildlife, document, what we were seeing around us, because there was plenty of wildlife here. There were walruses on a seal with a little pup, breastfeeding. There were seals. There were Arctic fox. There were reindeer.
I'm hoping that once we get in. So here's Ideal. Ideal, we did the polar dip. Woo!
All right. Here we go.
The two of us taking a dip in the Arctic Ocean was just a small taste of what they experienced, but we truly felt like we were one of them. All of us connected on our time on Svalbard, new friendships blossoming on the tundra. Even canine friends, just like Etra.
She created warmth between us. She gave us an opportunity to love and care and and you know, express ourselves and keep that emotional part of ourselves alive. She was absolutely a savior for us. She truly was.
What's amazing about sea ice is that it is the AC of the Arctic. So because it's white, it reflects solar radiation, so it's like a mirror. It's like wearing a white t-shirt in the summer months. So the solar radiation gets back into space and it keeps that place cool. But the problem is that sea ice is in contact with an ocean that is getting warmer and warmer every year. The air temperature is also getting warmer and warmer every year. So in 40 years, we've lost 40% of Arctic sea ice.
Places like that are these literal hotbeds of climate change, and to be able to do research in these areas, as Sunniva and Hilde have done, is monumental.
Monumental indeed. In fact, as the first two women to ever overwinter in a cabin without men this far north, they will go down in history for their work and contributions to science. This was a foreword sent to them for their latest book.
Hearts in the Ice is more than a project. More than two brave women managing to stay on their own during a polar winter. It's a model for how scientists, industrial partners, explorers, artists, and other stakeholders can meet in a common action to focus on polar climate changes. They are following in the footsteps of other polar pioneers, but this time not hunting for fur and skins, but knowledge and wisdom.
While visiting Svalbard, I learned about calving glaciers, ocean currents, and how they continue to warm, which will lead to an even warmer Arctic. I learned about polar bears. They may indeed try to adapt in the short term by eating reindeer, and that this magical place is not truly magical. It takes an army, all of us, to make changes to better the world that we live in.
You matter more than you think. You know, we're in a world where it's so depressing. Don't stop believing that you really have an impact that you can make through your voice or through your personal actions.
Most of all, I learned the importance of relationships and the power of friendship, trust, and bravery.
We can do this.